Today we're going to make some hot chocolate bombs. So I'm going to take this chocolate and I'm going to break it apart into the smallest pieces that I can. And then we're going to put it in the microwave. So I like to start out by just doing the melting in 15-second increments. That way I know that I can make sure that the chocolate is not burning. I can keep an eye on it. So I'll set it to 3 minutes, but I'm going to take it out every 15 seconds and I'm going to stir it. So I'm just going to do this a couple of times. So we really want to make sure that we don't overheat the chocolate because it'll change the consistency. So I'm going to take it out and it looks like it's kind of melted, like there's still a lot of chunks, but I'm going to keep stirring and I'm actually going to try to make the chocolate touch the sides of my glass because the sides are hot, and I'm going to try to use the heat from the glass to help me melt the chocolate more. So I'm going to keep stirring, and it might actually seem like you're at a point where it doesn't seem like it's going to melt anymore, but keep stirring, and if we reach this point where it's not going to melt, then I would put it back into the microwave for less than 15 seconds, because really once you overheat it and it reaches that point where it starts to change texture, there's no going back. So it took a lot of stirring, but we're at the consistency that we want. We can see that it's pretty smooth. So I am going to start putting this into the molds. So here I'm just taking a little bit at a time and I'm putting it in there and I'm trying to pull it up to the sides. Now you really want to make sure that you're getting the rim of the mold, so the sides, thick. So I'm going to keep pulling the chocolate up. So it's making sure that everything's coated and really focusing on the sides, on the edges, and making sure that those are thick enough, because that is what I'm going to use. I'm going to use the edges to attach the two pieces together. So there needs to be enough chocolate that we can melt it, and that there'll be enough chocolate that we can melt it and attach it together. So don't worry if it gets a little sloppy on the edges, it's fine. That chocolate will actually be useful for when we melt the chocolate and try to put it together. It'll have more chocolate for us to make sure that that bond stays. So I can tell that the chocolate is starting to harden, it's getting a little bit thicker, but I'm still just making sure that I really pay attention to the sides and the edges, because that's key for us to be able to get these two pieces to stay together. So I've left the chocolate out so that it can harden, and now that it is hardened, I'm going to take this plate and I'm going to put it in the microwave for just a little bit of time. I want it to heat up. I don't want it to be hot, but I want to be able to touch it and I can feel some heat. So I can feel some heat on the plate, so I'm going to take my chocolate out of the molds. I'm going to take 2 pieces out. So I'm going to take one of these half cups and I'm going to take my plate and I'm going to actually rub the chocolate against the plate, and I'm going to use the heat of the plate to melt the edges. You can see it's melting a little bit on the plate. And I'm just checking to make sure that it looks like enough of the edges have melted. I'm going to quickly fill that up with some marshmallows and some hot chocolate. And it feels like my plate has already lost some heat, so I'm just going to heat it up really quick again for my second half. And then I'm going to rub that second piece and melt the edges. And so all of this extra sloppy chocolate is going to help because I'm going to be able to use that to smooth out the edges. So just match it up, put them together, hold it together, and then I'm going to use my plate again. And I'm going to rub the edges against the plate so that those melt. It can form like a little bond between the 2 pieces with all that extra chocolate. And if there's too much, you can always end up breaking the extra pieces off. So a lot of times people will use milk, hot milk. We don't have that here, so we're going to use some hot water. Make sure it's boiling hot, but you can see when you start to pour it on top of the chocolate, it bursts open, and then everything that you have inside your hot chocolate bomb will come bursting out, and now you have your hot chocolate.